Hello and welcome. This is Mike D, and today I'm going to show you how to use the autofocus suite product in order to control some features of Daz Studio with the usage of the 3D Connexion Space Mouse, the Enterprise Edition. First thing I have to do is to install the package into Daz Studio. You have to navigate through your main library into the path scripts Mike D autofocus suite and execute the first script add to menu and to toolbar. Executing the script, a dialog will pop up. In this dialog, you can select between a minimal installation, a default installation, and installation for interaction with some external devices. This dialog has three columns. The first column is responsible to add the selected scripts into the script menu. The second column is responsible to add the selected scripts into the toolbar, and the third column is responsible to remove any selected script you have already installed into Daz Studio. Hovering the mouse above the last column will show you in a tooltip the purpose of the selected script. Now, having the default scripts selected, I'm going to press select for 3D Connexion Mouse Enterprise Edition and or Elgato Stream Deck Classic 15 keys interaction in order to add the necessary scripts. I'm going to press the add to menu button, and Daz Studio is prompt me to restart the application, which is what I'm going to do now. Let's see now how to import the setting file into the 3D Connexion Space Mouse Enterprise Edition in order to work with Daz Studio. You've got to navigate through your main library and to the path General, Mike D, Autofocus Suite, and in the gray space, right click and choose Browse to Folder Location. We've got to copy the first file, Daz Studio XML, into the path users, user application, data, roaming, 3D connection, 3dx where, config, and we can do it by just drag this file into this position. I already have this file, so I'm going to skip it. And the next thing we've got to do is to click on Daz Studio to get focus again, and press the menu button into the 3D Connexion mouse panel. The setting dialog will pop up, and we've got to go here in the More option and choose the Import Settings. Navigate through the path your main library, General Mike D Autofocus Suite, and choose the file Mike D 3D Connexion mouse settings for Daz Studio. Click the Open. I want to do it now, and your 3D mouse will have the settings for Daz Studio. Close the dialog, and we're ready to continue. Let's see now the 3D mouse configuration. The shortcut keys on the left side are used for camera's common actions. The keys on the right side are used for camera's secondary actions. All the other keys are the default, with the exceptions. The delete key will rotate through Daz device settings for 3D mouse. The ISO 1 key resets current camera's Z tilting, and if you hold this key, it will reset the current item's Z and X tilting instead. Pressing the Fit key will open the perspective compression script. I have loaded an older promo scene in order to work with. Each time I'm using a 3D mouse shortcut that it is associated with one of these scripts, the status bar will display information about the action. Keep an eye all the time on the status bar. All these scripts use the current camera. Saying current camera, I mean the camera that is selected in the active viewport over here, as you can see is the perspective view, but not the Daz predefined views. If I have no custom camera over here, then the scripts search for any selected camera I've got into my scene. I'm going to use two viewports. So in the menu Video Viewports, I'm choosing the side-by-side option. The active viewport is the one with the yellow frame around it. You can switch between all these viewports by clicking on them. I can move around now into my scene using the 3D mouse wheel. Now, if I'm going to press the 2 key into my 3D mouse, it will switch on and off the pan and zoom functionality. It means now that I can rotate my mouse around the center of the scene, but I can't move it forward, backward, left, right, up or down. I'm pressing it again to unlock it. Now I'm going to press the lock button into the 3D mouse, and this button locks the rotation of the camera, but I can move the mouse through all directions. I'm pressing it again to unlock the feature. Let's create now two cameras for Lucy. I'm navigating in the scene. I think I like this angle, and now I am pressing the 4 button into the 3D mouse menu. This circle will appear into my current position, my cursor's current position, and I'm choosing the 105mm camera as I want a portrait. Now I'm going to move somewhere else, let's say somewhere here, and by pressing the same key, the 4 key, I'm going to choose another focal length, let's say 80mm. I have to say that these two custom cameras are locked by default when they are created, and I have to unlock them if I want to move them. Let's create some custom views into our scene. I'm moving the camera somewhere up, let's say here. And now I'm going to press and hold the V1 key on my mouse panel, watch the status bar. And it said that it says that custom view 1 saved. I can go now into another position, let's say somewhere here, and I'm going to press and hold the V2 button into the 3D mouse panel. As you can see, the custom view cameras are some hidden cameras and they are not showing into the scene tab, except I choose show hidden nodes into these settings. In order to restore one of the 3 custom view cameras, all I have to do is just press the same V key into my 3D Connexion mouse, and by pressing one of these keys, this camera is going to be the active custom view in my current viewport. If I have this custom view camera selected and I press the V1 key again, it will switch between the perspective view and the custom camera. Let's maximize our working area. Pressing the 1 key on the 3D mouse panel, it will toggle the sides, the docks of Daz Studio user interface to the left and to the right side. You can achieve almost the same functionality by going into the window menu and choose full screen mode, or by pressing the Shift and F11. But in this case, all these toolbars will not be visible in the full screen mode. In addition, when you are exiting this full screen mode, the Studio repaint the user interface, and in some cases it crashes the application. Pressing the 7 key on the 3D mouse panel, it will rotate between the current cameras and the perspective camera, into the active viewport. It won't rotate between the custom views, and you've got to press the V1, V2, or V3 key in order to restore these views. Let's select the 105mm camera and let's place it somewhere else to be more suitable. As I mentioned before, all new created cameras are by default locked, so I've got to unlock it first. I've got to press the 8 key on my mouse panel, and as you can see in the status bar, the selected camera is unlocked. Now I can move it into a new position, let's say somewhere here, and I'm pressing the 8 key again in order to lock it back. Now, if I don't like the focal length for my current camera, I can press the 10 key into my mouse panel, and a new dialog will pop up. As you can see here, the current camera's focal length is 105mm, and I can change it without messing with the camera's properties into Daz Studio. I can find another value that is better for me, and I'm going to press the done button. You can undo this action by pressing Ctrl Z or this arrow over here. Having the main camera selected into the active viewport, I'm pressing the 5 key into the 3D mouse panel, and if you watch the status bar, it says that the selected camera DOF is on. This script is switching on or off camera's DOF, which means depth of field, without messing around with camera's properties into Daz Studio. Now, what exactly is camera's DOF for any user that don't know? In order to show you, I've got to go into the left viewport and choose the custom view 1. And I've got to select the main camera into our scene over here. As you can see now, into the active viewport, I've got a crosshair with a green and a red line and a sphere in the middle. This is a focal point of the camera. This is where the camera is focused. In front of this sphere and behind the sphere, there are 2 planes. Any items in front of this plane will be out of focus and it will be blurred in the final render. The same will happen with every item is behind the second plane, behind the crosshair, and all these items will be blurred too. The clear area is the area between these 2 planes, including the crosshair. Now, there are many ways to adjust the focal point and where are the clear and the blurred areas. And let's see first of all how to focus on Lucy. Normally you have to select the main camera into your scene, and in the parameters tab you've got to find into the camera properties the focal distance, and by adjusting this focal distance you can get this crosshair onto your figure. I won't do it with this way, but with another more convenient way too fast and extremely precise way. I've got to get into my left viewport. Over here I've got my main camera selected, and I've got to select in the scene Lucy, as this is my model and I want to focus on her eyes. It is essential to focus on your model eyes if you've got a portrait. All I've got to do here is to press the 3 key on my mouse panel, and by doing this action, the script will recognize that Lucy is a figure, and having left and right eye, it will ask me if I want the camera to focus on Lucy's eyes instead of the head, which is the selected item. I'm going to answer as yes, and now the camera is focused exactly between Lucy's eyes. Let's verify this. I'm opening the scene again. I'm choosing my camera 105mm, and as you can see here, this crosshair is exactly at Lucy's eyes level. As you can see now, changing the focal point, it also changes the clear areas, and it is a very narrow box over here in front of Lucy's face. If I want to get this area larger and get a bigger clear area, I've got to change it by choosing the f-stop, changing the f-stop. I've got to press the 11 key on my 3D mouse panel, and as you can see now, a new dialog has been pop-up. I can change here the f-stops, and remember that I am at 22, and increasing this value will also increase this area, this space, that the render will be clear. If I decrease this value, then the area will be even more narrow. Let's say that I want something like 90, and as you can see now, the clear area will be a lot much wider than before. There is another way, more convenient and more visual, to see the clear and the blurred areas. Let's get back over here into our left viewport and set the NVIDIA iRay on without being mandatory. Having the main camera selected into the active viewport, I've got to press the 6 key on my 3D mouse panel, and as you can see here, a white plane is now visible behind Lucy. Actually, it is the plane behind Lucy that set the limits for the clear areas. This is the DOF far plane visibility, and as you can understand, every item behind this white plane, every item that it is not visible, will be blurred in the final render. In order to see this function, you've got to set DOF far visibility on from the camera menu, and at the same time you've got to select this camera into the active viewport and into the scene. The script will do all these actions for you, and now you can see the plane over here. If I'm going to press the 12 key on my 3D mouse panel, the near plane will be visible, which is the plane in front of Lucy. As you can understand, each item that is in front of this plane and it is visible in the left viewport will be blurred as well. Now, if I want to switch these planes off, I've got to press the 12 key again to switch off the front, the near DOF plane visibility off, and I've got to press the 6 key again in order to switch off the far plane visibility off as well. You can understand that having the far plane visibility on and the near plane visibility on, you can also change the f-stop of camera using the 11 key as we mentioned before, and in this way you can also set which will be the clear items and the blurred items into your scene. I don't want the area preview anymore, so I'm going to set it off somewhere into the texture shaded mode, and let's continue. I showed you earlier the focus script that instantly focused your selected camera into your selected object. Now I'm going to show you another script that also adds new functionality to Daz Studio, the autofocus script. This script is tracking your main object or your camera, and if one of these items is moved into the scene, the script will refocus the camera into the object into the new position. First of all, we've got to select our object again, and I'm picking Lucy's head. And now I'm going to press 9 on the 3D mouse panel. As you can see here, a dialog pop up, and as Lucy is a figure, the script recognizes that it can focus in Lucy's eyes instead of the head, which is a selected item. And this option is checked by default. All I have to do is just press the switch autofocus on button, and now the script is tracking both the camera and Lucy's movement. Let's test this script. I'm opening the scene tab, and as you can see now, the main camera is focused on Lucy's eyes. I'm going to pick Lucy and move her somewhere to the back. If I select again the main camera, you can see now that the main camera has refocused on Lucy's eyes. I've got to undo this action, so Lucy is going back into her original position, and as you can see, the script keeps tracking her movement and refocuses all the time the camera. Now, if I want again to manually focus somewhere, I've got to switch off this script. I'm selecting Lucy, and I'm going to press 9 again, so the dialog will pop up again. And all I have to do is just press the switch autofocus off, and now the script stops tracking Lucy's or camera's movement. Let's see now another powerful script which also adds new functionality into Daz Studio, which is the perspective compression. This is a photographical term, meaning that you can bring your camera closer to your object and at the same time decreasing the focal length, or you can get your camera further away from your model and at the same time increasing the focal length. And in this way, always your model has the same relative size into the frame. If you get your camera closer to your model, bigger, more items in the background will be visible as the lens will become more wide. And if I get my camera further away from my model, the background will become more narrow, having less item into the frame. Having select my main object, again, let's say Lucy's head, I'm going to press the Fit key into my 3D mouse panel, and as the script also recognize that Lucy is a figure, it prompts me to focus on Lucy's eyes instead of her head. I'm going to say yes, and now a new dialog has been popped up. In this dialog, we've got two sliders, one that controls the camera's distance from the target level and one that controls the camera's focal length. You can change any variable you want. The other variable will be recalculated by the script. Let's say that I want to change the camera's distance from Lucy. If I decrease the camera's distance from Lucy, the lens will become more wide, so more items will be visible into my scene and especially into the background. If in the opposite direction, I'm going to get my camera closer to Lucy, the focal length also increases, so it has less items into my frame. You can get the distance in the value you think that is the suitable for you, and you can just press the done button. This action can be undone with Ctrl Z or this arrow over here. This is a very powerful script, as you can rearrange your frame and get a new perspective about what items will be included or not. Let's go now into the left viewport and let's unlock our current camera. I'm going to rotate it through the Z-axis, and let's say that I have done it accidentally or deliberately. I can fix this problem and reset my camera's Z-axis tilting by pressing the ISO 1 key into my 3D mouse panel. By doing that, I'm not bringing my camera into the previous position. It was a little bit to the right. I'm just resetting my Z-axis, my camera's Z-axis rotation. Let's say now that Lucy is also have been rotated through to the X and Z axis. I'm going to give a random rotation over here, and maybe again in Lucy, and again over here. And let's say that by accident Lucy has this position. If I want to reset Lucy's tilting into the X and Z axis, I've got to select the main route, Lucy, and in my scene Lucy is already selected, and I've got now to press and hold the ISO 1 button, and doing that Lucy will be back resetting the X and Z tilting. Let's go to the left viewport and select the next camera until I've got my perspective view. I have the perspective view, and now I'm going to take this view closer to Lucy. I'm going to select the main route again, Lucy, and now by pressing the rotate key on my 3D mouse, I can rotate the viewport by 45 degrees by default around my selected node. If I'm going to press the same button and holding it for a while, my camera is going to rotate counterclockwise instead of clockwise. You can always change the settings by clicking on this script over here with the cogs. And as you can see, I've got some settings for all the scripts, including for some scripts, including into the suite. I hope that all these scripts add full functionality into your 3D mouse controlling Daz Studio. Thank you for watching my video.